You're listening to Fox City's Murder and Mayhem, your bi-weekly dose of true crime history in a small rural community of Wisconsin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fox City's Murder and Mayhem. I'm Eric.
I'm Gavin.
And Gavin, we're doing a Fox City's Murder and Mayhem episode a lot sooner than I thought we were going to be doing it.
That's right.
But we're here and we're doing it, so that's good.
That's right. So, yeah, where we left off, we said we weren't going to do them as often. And so, you know, they'll be dropped in less often. But just as we were winding it down, I remembered that I had a book about unusual Oshkosh deaths. So there's going to be a string of Oshkosh stories sprinkled in for a while.
Oh, cool.
So, we're not going back. That's still firm. We're not coming back to a regular schedule. But I do have stuff to rely on for a bit.
So I'm curious, can you share, do you know the title of the book in case anybody's interested in checking it out? Or is it one of these books that would be almost impossible to get a copy of?
It would be almost impossible. I don't think this book is widely available. What it was the Oshkosh Public Museum had an exhibit on like the history of funeral customs. And then they had this little spiral-bound book, which they probably still do. They probably still have it in the gift shop. But they had this spiral-bound book about, you know, like a self-guided walking tour of the cemetery. And then they had the stories in the book.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
actually.
It is pretty cool. But yeah, like I highly doubt you can find it on Amazon. I think you have to go to the gift shop.
Okay. All right, well,
or maybe their website. I guess checking the Oshkosh Public Museum's website is worthwhile too. Definitely, it's good. I mean, if you're interested in that sort of thing, which I assume that you are if you're listening to this. So,
and we should point out to anybody that is not from the Fox Valley that is listening to this podcast, because there may be a couple of you out there.
For some reason.
Oshkosh is technically not part of the Fox Cities.
In my opinion, it's not. People in Oshkosh will fight you on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. I just thought that was pretty much assumed. I would consider it part of the Fox Cities, but...
Yeah.
So, sorry if I offended anybody in Oshkosh who feels like they are part of the Fox Cities.
No, it's weird. It's weird. When you're in the Appleton area and they say Fox Cities, like what the Appleton people mean is Appleton, Menasha, and Neenah, Little Chute, Kimberly, Combined, Logs, Kaukauna.
Right.
That's the Fox Cities. Oshkosh people think that they're included. And the reason they think they're included is because there's the other Fox River that comes through Oshkosh. Which, in my opinion, is a fake Fox River. So, and I'll stand on that. Like people,
I didn't even know there was a quote another Fox River that went through Oshkosh.
Yeah, so the Fox River runs between Green Bay and Lake Winnebago.
Okay,
right? And it goes into Lake Winnebago at Neenah. But then there's another Fox River that comes out of Lake Winnebago in Oshkosh and then goes up
to Poygan or like
Lake by Poygan
and stuff.
And to my mind, now granted, I'm not, you know, a lakeologist or whatever, you know, I don't know the term for that, but I'm not one of those people, but I don't know how you determine that that's still the same river.
Yeah.
If it goes into Lake Winnebago and it comes out another end, like, what if there's multiple rivers coming in and out of that lake? How do you know which one is the river?
Yeah.
So to me, it's a separate river.
Yeah, I can agree with. I can see it both ways.
Yeah.
And technically, they did name it Fox River.
They named it Fox River. Yeah.
So
somebody thought it was the same river, but I don't know how you would determine that.
Well, that is a great little piece of, I guess, what kind of history is that, or whatever we call that?
That's like geography.
Geography. Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with anything. So we've gone off on a tangent about whether or not Oshkosh is the Fox Cities. I say it's not, but I know people will fight me on that. So, but we're still going to include them in the podcast. Just like we'll include Green Bay in the podcast, even though I would say Green Bay is not in the Fox Cities, even though they actually have the Fox River.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I don't know who made that determination, but anyway, today we're going to talk about a story that is very well known in Oshkosh. I don't know if you know it or not.
I'm sure I don't.
Okay. Very well known in Oshkosh. And I didn't either, to be fair. Like, I knew that it existed, but I knew nothing about it.
So if you don't know about it, there is no possible way I know about it.
I knew that it happened. I didn't know anything. And I kind of don't even want to give you the title of this episode up front. I guess if you're listening to it, you can see the title of the episode. But I kind of don't want to give it away just yet. Well, let's compromise. So people listening can see the title. Eric cannot see it.
Sounds fair.
Okay.
And we can always make a very cryptic title when we post it so that people
Sure.
don't really know what this is.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a guy named Simon Bailey Page. He's originally from New Hampshire. He's born in New Hampshire in 1824, to give you an idea of how far back we're going here. Born in 1824. He marries a woman with the name, and this is her real name, Leafy Bean.
Nice.
Yeah, Leafy Bean. So she's now Leafy Bean Page. In the 1850s, they come to Oshkosh. Simon and his brother were in the wholesale grocery business, but he also had investments in lumber, railroads, racehorses. Very well off. He was very financially successful. Well known, well respected, and he had no children, so he had money and he had basically
nobody
no
to give it to.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like, well, I mean, obviously he had the businesses, but I assume he had managers do that part for him. Well, Simon was plagued by fire. His grocery business in Oshkosh burned 8 times. 8 times. Yeah. Luckily, he was well insured, so he was able to rebuild it. In 1874, a house that he owned on Jefferson Street in Oshkosh burned completely, destroying all of his personal property. Simon may have been more unlucky than the average man in this respect, but to be fair, fire was a constant threat in the city of Oshkosh. A threat everywhere at this time because we're primarily using, oil lamps for lighting, so that's not really the safest way to light things. But Oshkosh maybe even more so because Oshkosh is known as the Sawdust City because lumber was its primary thing. So not only is everything heat and lit and everything else by fire, there's wood everywhere in Oshkosh. So it's just kind of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, with great money and no responsibility, Simon and Leafy liked to travel everywhere. They would go around the United States, to Europe, the Mediterranean, the Middle East. By December 1880, they decided it might be time to settle down. And they took up permanent residence at the Beckwith House, which is a hotel, on the corner of Main and Algoma in Oshkosh. Do you know what the corner of Main and Algoma in Oshkosh
Well, I
is?
know where Maine is. I'm not sure where Algoma is.
Okay.
So.
This building still stands today.
Okay.
Do you know what it is?
The old exclusive company.
No, but you're very close. You are very close. Other side of the street.
Chase Bank? Isn't there a Chase Bank?
I don't know where the Chase Bank is.
No.
Maybe. It is the New Moon Cafe.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So the New Moon Cafe is still in Oshkosh, huh?
Yes, the New Moon Cafe is still up.
I haven't been there in probably 20 years, so.
My apologies to Mr. Aaron Bear. Yes, the New Moon Cafe is still in Oshkosh. At this time, the Beckwith House was 4 stories tall. It was primarily a hotel. People would stay there for only a few days at a time. But the top floor was, kind of like what we might call like penthouse apartment. And, they wouldn't call them that at the time, but people who wanted to actually live in a hotel would live up on the floor, and that's what they did. December 3rd, 1880, Simon takes advantage of a warmer than average December day, and he goes out riding his horse, enjoying the day. He's got no cares in the world. Leafy stayed home and decided to plan a tea party. She called up all her friends to come over and have a tea party.
Nice.
Yes.
Every good story starts with tea party.
Yes. That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Well, that's up on the 4th floor. Down on the 1st floor, an employee was filling the kerosene lamps.
Oh, no.
One of them tipped over, and there was instantly an incredible blaze. The flames spread up the stairs and through the narrow hall. Smoke was dense. Chaos reigned. Traveling salesmen panicked and threw their suitcases out the windows. Those who could ran out into the street. People outside watched and were horrified by the instant switch from calm to Mrs. Harlow, one of the tea party guests, yelled out the 4th-story window for help. Passers-by stopped and pulled blankets from their carriages, urging her to jump. She was scared to jump from the 4th floor. Don't blame her for that. So instead she tried to climb down by hanging from the window ledge. After a while, she couldn't hold onto the window ledge any longer, and she had to let go. She fell very ungracefully. Her foot hit another ledge, twisting her ankle and causing her to flip mid-air. She was now heading towards the ground head first. The men holding out blankets for her were amazingly able to break her fall. It was a rough landing, which she survived.
Wow.
Yeah, so good for her. Firemen were able to get a ladder up to the 4th floor after the smoke slowed down a bit, and inside they found the burned and blackened body of Leafy Page. A rope was tied around her, and her body was lowered down, arms and legs dangling, limp and disfigured. Simon Page returned from his ride just as the body was being recovered.
Oh, God.
Not the welcome home that he wanted.
No.
As he watched the men climb the ladder, he offered $5,000 to the man who brought his wife's body out, dead or alive. The death toll overall was luckily very small. Three people.
Wow. And how many people, do we know roughly how many people were in the building at the time?
I do not know, but I have to assume, many, because there were something like 70 rooms built.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this is a big building then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One of those killed was an Irish servant girl, Mary Alice Hanrahan. I don't know. Okay. And then a month later, while they were clearing up the rubble, they found a black night porter named George Wood. They knew he was dead, but it took him a while to actually find
his body.
Yeah. Wood has a bit of an interesting backstory. He had previously worked for the Pullman sleeping cars between Chicago and San Francisco, so that's kind of neat. Got to travel a lot, help people out there. After working for the railroad, he was a farmhand in Sheboygan County, then worked in a horse stable in Fond du Lac before finally coming to Oshkosh. He did a few things over the years, moved around. Mary Hanrahan had previously been caught in a fire at the Revere Hotel, which I don't know if that's Oshkosh. The newspaper just says the Revere Hotel as if I'm supposed to know what that is. So maybe that's Oshkosh.
I believe there is a place that it's like a convention center that's called Riviera in Oshkosh. So I wonder if maybe that's in the old building.
Could be
that they're talking about right there. I think that's what it.
Well, she had been in that fire and was carried out in her nightgown and survived. But apparently, you could only survive one hotel fire because the second time she did not. All right. Much of the building actually remained standing 6 months later. At which time the mayor and the city council said, these walls, they got to kind of come down because, we can't have burned out buildings. Like, what if they fall and people are going by, on a horse or walking and a wall falls on them? That's like a serious problem. The original architect of the hotel, William Waters, also did not believe that the building was safe. He should know. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to aside for a moment. I'm going to go off on a tangent. William Waters. First of all, William Waters.
Okay.
He's the architect of this hotel, but he was all over the place in Winnebago County. Like, if you ever go to Neenah, Wisconsin, and anywhere down Wisconsin Avenue around the lake, there's freaking huge mansions, blocks.
He designed all of them?
He designed pretty much all of them, the vast majority of them.
Okay.
So, any major building in Oshkosh, Neenah, surrounding area, it was probably William Waters. This guy was doing it all. Now, another aside, and this will not matter to the listeners. Listeners will not care about this, but here's a fun fact for you. There is a book on William Waters.
Okay.
Which you could also buy from the Oshkosh Public Museum.
Okay.
Strongly recommend it. And it was put together by somebody who is the mother we both know.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, are we not announcing that on the podcast?
We will announce it on the podcast because her son, the author's son, is world-famous filmmaker John Pat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We've already talked about John Pat on podcast before, so I guess we can mention it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So how's that for a small world connection?
That's great.
Yeah. All right. So just wanted to put that aside there because I think William Waters is cool. But anyway, so Mr. Beckwith, the guy who owned the building that it's named after, he didn't want it torn down. The whole thing didn't burn. And he worked out a compromise with the city, and they were able to save the first 2 floors. So, where the New Moon Cafe is and some of the apartments above it, a lot of that is the original.
Okay.
And if you look at pictures of the hotel and pictures today, you can see that it's obviously still the same.
Okay. Does it continue to go up now? Did they build it back up to a higher level? So
I think it's only 2 floors now.
It's just 2 floors.
Yeah.
So it's a fraction of what it was, pretty much. Gotcha.
Right, but if you take a look, the windows line up the same. They salvaged a lot of it. Okay. Around April 1882, so this is now a little over a year after the fire, Simon Page found himself in court. Charles Reef sued him for $5,000. Reef took the credit for bringing Leafy Page out of the hotel. Page now said that he had made the offer in desperation and didn't mean it. As you may recall, he yelled that he'll pay $5,000 to whoever brings his wife out.
Yeah.
He now says, oh, I didn't mean that. That was just like the heat of the moment. But numerous people testified that they did hear him make the offer and they did believe that he was serious. So enough people had the opportunity to jump at this. Ultimately, though, none of this mattered. The judge on the case actually tossed it out. And the reason he tossed it out was because Charles Reef's a fireman, a firefighter. And he said, well, like, it's kind of your job to go up and do that.
So you don't get any money.
Yeah, so you don't get any money because, like, if we allowed that to happen, you're basically accepting a bribe.
Yeah.
You're like getting paid money to do your job. That offer, even if that offer was legit, it wouldn't apply to you anyway.
Which 100% makes sense. So, yeah. Like, you can't really disagree with that viewpoint.
Yeah, being oh, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll save her. It's like, no, dude, that's like,
but if you
that's
put
your job.
If you put $5,000 in my hand, I'll definitely save her.
Yes, Simon Page got kind of saved on that one there. After this tragedy in the court and all this shakes out, Simon moved to Davenport, Iowa, where he had family. He tried to start his life over. He married a woman named Mary Elizabeth Libby, who was 27 years his junior.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there, but I mean, okay. That was January 1883. But apparently it didn't work because 2 months after the wedding, he shot himself in the head.
Wow.
And he was done. So there you go.
That's it, huh?
I mean, it. He's dead. That's it.
Quite an end to the story. I mean, I would love to know, like, what's the story behind him killing himself.
I would also love to know that. The thing is so the core of this, as I said in the beginning, like, came out of that little book that I got from Oshkosh Museum. But you know that I'm not gonna rely just on that. So I went back and I looked at the Oshkosh newspaper. Kind of fleshed out some of the details, but they didn't have really coverage on his death because he'd moved to Iowa, and I don't have great access to Iowa newspapers. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I also would love to know more about how they reported that.
Yeah, because I mean, he was extremely successful, and I assume, I mean, yeah, he didn't even own that building, right?
Not the hotel. No.
Yeah, So he didn't even lose anything in that fire other than his wife.
Well, he lost his wife.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you got to imagine he went down to Davenport, Iowa with plenty of resources. So, what was the stem of causing this?
Well, I mean, presumably the wife.
That's losing his wife.
Maybe you don't care. But this guy, you know, they were very close. I mean, they were world travelers. They were very close. They didn't have children, so they had each other all the time. So I guess I don't know. I didn't really do the math. I mean, but they're married. I don't know exactly the time frame on here, but at least 35 years they're married.
Yeah, so I guess
you know, that I could see that being, and not only the fact that he lost like his wife, but the fact that he lost his wife and seeing her brought up a building.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he just cracked at that point.
Yeah, that's very true. And then maybe he's like, I can go, you know, I can get over this, but he never really got over it. Yeah. And then he lost his second wife, and he was just like, yeah, I'm done.
Didn't lose a second.
Well, I mean, they got divorced though, right?
No, he didn't. No.
Oh, he just. I thought you said something about them.
Oh, no. Maybe I misspoke. Did I say like it only lasted 2 months?
Well, you said that it didn't last very long. But okay, so he got married.
So yeah, maybe that was a poor way of phrasing it. It didn't last long because he shot himself.
Okay. So they were still married when
yes.
It wasn't anything with that marriage. Gotcha.
Yes.
Wow. Well, that's kind of a gloomy end to the story.
Yeah,
man. But I guess this is Fox City's Murder and Mayhem.
Yeah.
We should be expecting gloomy, right?
Yeah. And as I said, like in the beginning, like it's a fairly well-known story because of the building.
Yeah.
If you're from Oshkosh, like, you know what the New Moon Cafe is. Like, it's a fairly well-known building in the center of town. So it's well-known for that. But I was very surprised looking into it that there were only 3 deaths because I was aware that a fire had happened. I knew that much. But I just would have assumed that it was a much bigger deal.
Yeah, and this is actually a great story because this introduced a lot of cool history.
Yeah.
That I think, well, you say people from Oshkosh know this stuff, but I'd still say that the majority of them probably really don't know. Or they know what you know, where you know that there was a fire there, but don't know anything about the fire.
I only know that there was a fire there. And I think the only reason I know that is I think Aaron Bear, who, if people don't know, Aaron Bear is the guy who owns New Moon. Mm-hmm. I think he had mentioned, because I don't know why else I would know that.
So it's very possible
but the people who have a store in that building are very aware.
Well, I'm sure, because you're going to know the history of it. But that's cool. All right, well, I think we can pretty much wrap this one up. As always, we thank you for your continued support. We don't really have the next episode on the docket yet, but I will be dropping reruns for you so you don't get bored, and we keep you subscribed to the podcast feed. Mm-hmm. And thanks, everybody. We'll see you when we get the next one done. Yeah, don't be surprised if you hear a few more Oshkosh ones down the road, because I think we got a couple that'll be easy to throw together. But yeah, no set schedule right now, so just hang tight.
Thanks for tuning in to Fox City's Murder and Mayhem. Join us in 2 weeks for another exciting episode of Murder and Mayhem.